The College Democrats. You're the president of the College Democrats.
Yep. That's
how you feeling about the enthusiasm? Your name and how you feeling?
My name is Rose, and I'm feeling great. This is going to be a great debate. Oh, sorry, I touched you there. I'm so enthusiastic. Walz is going to do so well.
All right, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. I really.
Governor, what do you think your strongest moment was tonight?
Oh, it's just, I think it was a good debate. The public got to see a contrast. And I think the ending sums it up. The democracy issue is important.
Thank you.
It's pretty clear Vance outclassed Walz tonight. I mean, I was watching this, and all I could think of was, man, Walz is so in over his head. I mean, can you imagine this guy sitting in the White House Situation Room with that facial expression that's like 50% sheer terror and 50% extreme bafflement? I mean, it was amazing, the split-screen difference between a competent Vance and a totally in over his head Walz. The answer on why he lied about his trips to China and the Tiananmen Square thing was probably the worst VP debate meltdown since Stockdale in '92. You know, who am I and why am I here? It was 2.5 minutes of absolute terrible. For Vance, night of redemption. All the political media has told us that Vance was a terrible pick and Walz was going to bring in all these voters. That charade is now over. Walz does not belong at this level of American politics. Vance does. Final verdict, Tim Walz wandered into the wrong bar tonight.
Well, there you have that, family. Get this video a big thumbs up. Helps crush that YouTube algorithm. Come subscribe and join the family if you haven't. Check this video out, family.
It's the audacity. I agree with you that we're in year 9 and no one knows how to cover the audacity. The audacity is that someone should have said, stop it, stop. Are you effing kidding me? And they should have dropped that F-bomb, right? I mean, they should have just, this is a debate. This may be the only chance people have to see the difference. It's the audacity.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. We got to talk about that debate that happened last night between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, okay? The vice presidential debate, probably the last time that we're going to see the two candidates from either side of the aisle on stage together debating the issues. And I got to tell you guys, man, Tim Walz really dropped the ball because he did not have a good debate performance at all. And I want to talk about how his debate performance was, but most importantly, the reaction from the mainstream level media, because it's pretty hilarious, okay? I mean, this guy lost really bad. And you can tell from the way that the mainstream liberal media is reacting, clearly they were rooting for the guy, right? But when you do so bad and you do as bad as Tim Walz did, yeah, it's hard to spin the debate into some type of victory, right? But we know that that's what they're doing at MSNBC. But the rest of the news outlets, they are actually somewhat honest. They have some type of integrity. Not so much, okay, it was not so good for Tim Walz. It wasn't a good night at all. And it was a great night for J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance did what he was supposed to do, which is to make the case that, hey, we have 4 years of Trump and we have 4 years of Kamala Harris / Joe Biden. We know what we got under Trump versus what we got under Joe Biden / Kamala Harris, right? So I want you guys to check this video out of J.D. Vance's point in regards to what he made in that point that I just explained to you, right?
A lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer. A lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies, and what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%, open the American southern border, and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans.
Well, you have that, family. He told it how it is, and he told it like it was. I want you guys to check this out, family. JD Vance is cooking right now, and I want you guys to embrace all the cooking he's doing.
Well, Tim just said something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this country, which does drive up costs, Tim. 25 million illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside massive increases in illegal alien populations under Kamala Harris's leadership. Now, first of all,
under Kamala Harris' leadership. So the first topic of the night was an Iran and foreign conflict. We know what we got under Trump when it comes to foreign conflict, which was basically none, okay? And now under Joe Biden, it seems like we're headed towards World War III. And you can tell that Tim Walz out the gate, this guy was extremely nervous and about to turd his pants, literally his pants, on stage. And when answering the question, it was so obvious that even a body language expert came in and talked about how Tim Walz was so frustrated and panicking the whole darn night, family. So I want you guys to check this out, family. Check it out. Check it out. Yeah.
Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw.
Well, he said absolutely fundamental. So you guys got that one. But I will show you guys the video in regards of him elaborating longer in regards of he was talking about how things were fundamental, you know, defend itself. Israel to Iran over Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental, right? So the next video what we're going to see is Tim Walz say how you see how steady leadership of Kamala Harris, right? And I want you guys to check this out, okay? Let me scrub along this.
Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together. Understanding that our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea.
Well, you got that one, family. I want you guys to check out JD Vance's response to that. Man, oh man, this man is cooking. I would not want to debate JD Vance. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I would not want to debate him. I would get out the way.
It's just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos. Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies and, God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well.
Well, you got that one, folks. And now we got the behavioral expert, man. We got the behavior expert in the building. And we're going to talk about, let me scribble on this. He's going to talk about how panic up in a panic that Tim Walz was in, man. It was crazy. It was wild. And shout out to Dr. Phil, right? Dr. Phil brought the behavioral expert in the building, right? So let me see.
Tell us a little bit, and that right ear comes forward a little bit. When he's, what we're seeing here, we're seeing this begins, Walz. What we're seeing here, we're seeing this begins panic almost, because he doesn't know what to say. See how he backs up there? And he's thinking? This is called the grief muscle. Right in that area there, that's a horseshoe style. When your forehead comes together in an upside down horseshoe, that's the grief muscle. He's not sure. Right there it is, right there. Perfect, perfect.
So when you say grief muscle, what are you saying that he's saying to himself right now?
He's worried. He's a little panicked, and he doesn't know what's going to happen. He's got the idea of what he wants to say, but he doesn't know exactly what he's going to say.
Well, you got that, folks.
Does that mean he's telling the...
He doesn't know what he's going to say. Yeah, so that's basically a good summary of how the whole night went, right? It was Tim Walz panicking as J.D. Vance was schooling him on issue after issue after issue, okay? And there's points in this debate where Tim Walz went into full panic mode, and it was so obvious that it probably was one of the worst debate moments in history, right? The history of debates, presidential or vice presidential debates, which is when Tim Walz was confronted about one of his many lies about whether or not he was at the protest in China, which he claimed that he was, although records have shown that no, buddy, you actually were not at the protest. And when confronted on this guy like melted down in front of the world. And you got to see it, family. It was like pretty disastrous moment, man. Take a look. We got Lindsay input on it. Wait. Sorry, family. Wrong video. Here we go. Check this out. Sorry about that, family.
Vance made 0 mistakes, and Walz made 2. Said he was friends with school shooters, and then couldn't explain why he was in China or wasn't in China. That was very strange.
All right, let's just play that soundbite. I think it's X4. Let's just play that moment where he gets fact-checked.
The meltdown.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in.
I'm being a little bit petty right now, fam. Look at his face. You know that moment of silence where it's like, brain fart, that's what I said. Look at his face, though. He look like a sad Kermit the Frog. Look at this man. Look. Run it back.
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
Look at his face. That's right. That's what I said. That's crazy.
So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protest went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Oops. I mean, he said he was in China during Tiananmen Square. I wasn't in China. That's pretty bad. J.D. Vance, everybody thought this guy was a bad guy. They were saying he was a creep. He looked beautiful tonight. He looked humble. He looked earnest, sharp, 20 years younger than Walz, new generation. I thought he was very polished. And then Walz didn't do what Walz was supposed to do. He didn't help with men tonight. He really never explained what Kamala's policies are. Did you guys get that? I still don't know what she wants to do. And then he talked about Minnesota more than he talked about her. JD's best times were when he said, well, housing costs are up now. Groceries up now. Borders open now. She's in power now. Why doesn't she fix it? She can do it right now, and she hasn't. The best line is when he said, Trump doesn't have just a plan. He has a record, and you can look at the record. And then he said, we're going to restore the American dream. CBS was terrible. Second question on climate change. You guys should have been doing this debate.
And I think Jesse Waters had the perfect summary of how this debate went down, family. I mean, at least the first part of the debate, I think was JD Vance's strongest, and they spent time talking about things that, in my opinion, were not really worth talking about, like the hurricane and climate change. Now, if you're going to talk about it, you need to talk about how it was devastating to the people, or whether or not Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was showing leadership in situations like this. And I mean, this is not the first time they've been criticized for going MIA after some type of natural or man-made disaster that happens to this country. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically how it went down. And you know that the debate was really bad for Tim Walz again. He had a lot of crazy moments when he was talking about being friends with school shooters. He wouldn't answer the question on whether or not Democrats believe in partial birth abortion, or whether or not they want to allow abortions in the 9th month. And the guy was just an absolute, total, complete disaster the whole night, man. And that's basically the takeaway that a vast majority of those who actually have some integrity in the media came away with. Because apparently this debate for Tim Walz was so bad that you have some people that compared it to Joe Biden's disastrous performance that happened earlier in the year when it came to Joe Biden's debate. And I want you guys to see, we got Lindsay Davis here who gives her input on how she compares it to Joe Biden debate earlier in the year. I want you guys to check this out.
It kind of reminded me of the June 27th debate when Kamala Harris that night said of Joe Biden, it was a slow start, but a strong finish. And that's how I felt that Tim Walz kind of did tonight. You know, to use Tim Walz's own words, I mean, a lot about this debate tonight was weird. There were uncomfortable, cringy moments. But overall, I think my takeaway was something that Reince Priebus said on the outset, which was that J.D. Vance needed to come away as that humble, likable guy from Hillbilly Elegy. It seemed like he did perhaps get some points in that.
Well, there you have it, family. There you have it. And I want you guys to check out this next video, man, about a political point that I feel that's very, very interesting that you guys should check out. Check this out.
Economy, I'll make a political point, which is that what Vance did was something Donald Trump was incapable of doing during his presidential debate, which is repeatedly saying, if Kamala Harris was going to do these things, why didn't she in office? Now, whether voters buy that or not, Tim Walz mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act and a variety of other items under Biden. But returning to that political point has worked in the past for Donald Trump against Hillary Clinton. We'll see if it works this time. I'd like to make a final point on tone. The J.D. Vance on that stage was very different than what people may have seen in podcasts. But then there was an air of unreality about it. He talked about bipartisan solutions with nuance of a kind we never saw during the Trump administration. He talked economy.
Well, there you have that, family, and I want you guys to check out another video, family, as I like to give insight or different perspectives from different news sources and different videos, and get you guys input on it down in the comments. Check this out.
There is no doubt in my mind, however Governor Walz did in terms of sincerity, that Vance won this debate. Why did Vance win this debate? For the same reason that Cheney trounced Lieberman when they debated, or Kennedy trounced Nixon when they debated, because they were not the stereotypes. Walz did come across as the substitute teacher being up against, dealing with the snotty, sharp kid in the class. But Vance didn't just take that stereotype. Vance proved himself to be someone who could moderate his tone, who could be agreeable where necessary. He wasn't the wicked, aggressive stereotype that the mainstream media has made him out to be. So Vance, to me, propelled, as Cheney did and as Kennedy did, I think Vance propelled himself. And believe me, I don't particularly care for 90% of his policies. And I think Governor Walz is a very, very sweet guy, nice guy, apparently been a good governor and congressman and so forth. But this is business. And I think that in terms of the business of who wins a debate, it's a vice presidential debate, the only one. And, you're nice, okay, maybe this, maybe that. Where was, I think that Vance emerged absolutely unscathed. And I think Walz tread water. Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. And here goes another video in regards of talking about Tim Walz, clear lack of preparation or being over-prepared. I want you guys to check this out.
I think there was a clear lack of preparation and execution here on Walz's part.
I think actually it's the opposite. I think he had too much preparation.
Maybe, yeah.
He had so many lines that he was clearly trying to say that he didn't listen and said when J.D. Vance said one of the many things he really hit Kamala Harris on, not Tim Walz, but Kamala Harris, he didn't respond because he clearly had things in his mind. I think the lack of interviews that he has done with national media, with local media, it showed. He needed more reps.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, J.D. Vance is much more experienced at this, at public speaking, at defending himself, at pivoting.
Well, there you have it, folks. And then there is MSDNC. I want you guys to take a look at. You know what I'm saying? You know. Man, oh man. Check it out.
And I actually think if you're a woman, that might be the worst moment J.D. Vance had, because he was going to mansplain right over that mute button. He was, and again, I don't pretend to know how everyone will react to this. I think that a lot of women in positions of authority that should command respect just by virtue of that dynamic will see themselves in some dude that disrespected them and talked over. I mean, there was a moment like that with then vice presidential in the Harris-Pence debate.
That one of these candidates is much slicker than the other, is a much more practiced kind of professional debate style speaker, and the other candidate won. There was one bad moment for Tim Walz in this debate where he got mixed up and embarrassed in answering a question about exactly what month he had been in China in relation to the Tiananmen Square protest.
It seems to me if the goal is to make Tim Walz your neighbor, your Midwest neighbor, a nice guy, actually, despite all the things we're saying this morning, it's mission accomplished, and Tim Walz got exactly what he needed out of this, and so did Kamala Harris.
We talked about this a little bit when we were sitting over there waiting. I think Tim Walz is one of the best communicators out there in Democratic politics, and he propelled himself onto the ticket because he is such an effective, good communicator.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, so you will know who look, man, you will know who won the debate depending on what the mainstream liberal media is talking about in regards to Tim Walz's performance. After the debate, I said they are talking about abortion and democracy. Then you know that J.D. Vance won, okay? Because in other words, for Tim Walz to win the debate, it will have to be a strong performance on the issues that matter most to the American people, which are the economy and immigration. And you cannot really find any commentary from the MSDNC, the pro-Democrats, the pro supporters, you know what you get what I'm saying, family. The Walz people about his performance when it comes to the economy. That's what I'm trying to say, and immigration, because his performance was terrible, right? They had to default talking about the democracy. And this moment in the debate where J.D. Vance didn't answer the question about the 2020 election and also, again, abortion rights. And again, two things in my opinion that don't really matter that much, okay? It's not really that as big of an issue. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm biased. The way I look at it, but I'm just saying as a strong debate performance from Tim Walz would have resulted in the media talking about the economy and immigration and talking about how good he did on those topics. But they're not talking about that, right? They're talking about the topics that Kamala Harris already has an advantage on, right? With the democracy stuff. Again, that's only because of the media creation, okay? And that's my one criticism of J.D. Vance that I don't think he went hard enough on against Tim Walz. I think he did it on purpose, right? I think he did it on purpose because Tim Walz looked extremely weak on stage, right? He looked like a deer in headlights, and I mean, the guy looked frail. I think he was just having a Joe Biden moment, to be honest with you, from like an optics perspective, okay? Because I said this during the Joe Biden debate, and I even mentioned and even talking about it from the Joe Biden debate, that if you actually just turn the sound off and you look at both of the candidates, you'll see the difference between Joe Biden looked very weak and frail compared to Trump in the debate. And in this debate, Tim Walz looked very weak and frail compared to J.D. Vance, right? So I wanted J.D. Vance to go harder on Tim Walz. Like, for example, when Tim Walz was caught lying about being in China doing a protest, I wanted J.D. to bring up the stolen dollar, right? JD Vance, to bring up the fact that this dude lied about how many kids he has, or how many kids he had, and also lying about carrying weapons of war into war. This dude lied about a DUI, but JD didn't really hit him hard on that, right? Also, when it comes to the topic of democracy, JD did bring up how Democrats claim that the 2016 election was stolen, but he should have went harder, right? He should have went harder about how nobody elected Kamala Harris. Democrats do not believe in democracy with their own party. Their own primaries are rigged, according to the Democrats, okay? And they've been contesting elections since George Bush, right? He should have won a lot harder against the Democrats. And the threat to democracy, along with the violence that happens every single time that the Democrats lose. So that's my biggest criticism in regards of JD Vance, that he didn't go as hard. And then again, I think about it, and I think it was done on purpose why he didn't go hard on Tim Walz, because the media has created a narrative where JD Vance is some type of mean person. He's heartless. He hates women. He's like a weirdo, right? So this creation all happening within the media because he was relatively an unknown figure going into this debate, and has favorability ratings have not been good. But again, the only reason that is because the media has been trying to create JD Vance as a monster. So I think that he came into this debate saying, all right, I'm going to be the civil person, right? I'm going to be civil. I'm not going to be too much like Trump. I'm going to not really, try to dominate the guy. But because ultimately I don't want to come off unlikable, right? And you actually saw that it actually worked. And it was pretty effective, because throughout the whole debate, Tim Walz kept saying, yeah, I agree with you, JD, on a lot of issues, right? On a lot of issues, okay? And it got to the point where MSNBC was getting pissed off about Tim Walz agreeing with JD Vance too much, family. And I want you guys to check this video out, because it is mind-blowing how big mad they is.
There were so many niceties on that debate stage tonight. I am just kind of like, well, if you agree so much with J.D. Vance, why should they vote for you? I fully believe that Governor Walz went out there tonight and did what was practiced in debate prep. Did what the strategy was that the team put together. That was not the Governor Walz that I had seen out on the campaign trail. That's not the Governor Walz that I had seen during the Veep stakes, right? That was not the J.D. Vance that I know to be true. I mean, goodness, J.D. Vance was on that stage. He was sorry about Amber Thurman. He was sorry about he was sorry about a lot of stuff. We get things wrong, but do you agree with the policy? And then I just, that's not the Margaret and Nora that I know. Margaret don't do that on Sunday morning. So I just think that I know that there's so many people out there that want normal. They want normalcy. They just want, just be able to just disagree with, I just had a lot of things I agree with. This is not a normal election. J.D. Vance is actually not Paul Ryan. And Donald Trump sure as heck is not Mitt Romney. Okay? And what happened on that debate stage tonight was not enough contrast, was not clear enough for people sitting at home, or frankly, who will probably consume this through the clips in their local news or here on MSNBC or on social media, to distinguish and make a difference.
Well, there you have it. Yeah. So again, that's how you know it was a bad night for Tim Walz, right? When MSNBC was ripping Tim Walz for agreeing with JD Vance too much. It was a bad night. But again, I think that was the strategy from JD. I'm not the target audience, right? So for me personally, I'm kind of pissed off too, right? I was kind of pissed off that JD Vance wasn't going hard enough against Tim Walz. But again, the target audience are those people who probably are still on the fence. They want to vote for Trump, but then they don't like Trump's temperament or whatever. So JD was basically showing that he's a counterbalance, right? That, he is like a different type of person than Trump, right? Which is the opposite of what the mainstream liberal media has painted him as, right. They basically painted JD Vance as a mini Trump. And I think that JD, again, he did a great job of showing the American people that, hey, I'm a likable person. And this because even in even in sorry, family, even in MSNBC's rig poll, JD's favorability went up 11%. 11%. Right? So 11 points. He gained 11 points from that debate. So again, I think it's clear JD dominated the debate, okay? I think that Tim Walz looked extremely weak. I think the only group of people that Tim Walz did well with were probably women. Women who look weak, right? Or I mean, women who like weak men, right? I should say. But as a man, okay, you know, other people with common sense, okay, women who actually like strong men, people who want strong leadership. As you know, we all should know there's no way you could have not watched the debate and came away from it thinking that, yeah, Tim Walz is somebody that we can trust in this situation where we're potentially dealing with war or foreign adversaries. And I mean, the guy, he looked like he was in over his skis, right? He looked like he belongs nowhere near the White House, okay? He looked very scared. He looked very weak. He looked like a weak, frail man, okay? And it was cringe at times just to watch his facial expressions because, you know, if I'm Vladimir Putin and, you know, when it comes to foreign adversaries, you eat what you kill, and it's all about having a competitive advantage in the up and up. But if I was Vladimir Putin, I'm like, yo, this guy easy, boy. This guy easy. You know what I'm saying? He cooked. Just like JD Vance cooked him. I know Vladimir Putin, like, yo, if Tim Walz get in office, he cooked. You know what I'm saying? So look at Tim Walz. Look, man, look, it's just, he would get eaten alive by foreign adversaries 100%. That's my takeaway on it. And I believe I'm right, and I came away with that. So with that being said, again, great job by JD Vance. And on that note, family, I want to get you guys' perspective, insight, and thoughts on it. But overall, that's the overall synopsis of the whole debate and my takeaways from it, and the videos that I have demonstrated to you, and my input as I added context to it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you rock with me, and come join the family if you like this type of content. And on that note, family, peace.